We'll move on to this now. There's been more backlash to retrenchments at state-owned PetroSA. The South African Federation of Trade Unions says it's simply not the way to go. Now, if more retrenchments are carried out by the end of January, the total number of retrenched employees at this firm will be over 900. Let's get the view of Zwelinzima Vavi, the SAFTU General Secretary. Mr. Vavi, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So you've heard the reason here, PetroSA telling us depleting gas reserves, the main reason for the company laying off people. Of course, you're not buying that, are you?
No, we're not buying that. We South Africans, we have been here, we have been reading newspapers, we have been reading reports of investigative journalists, Amapungane in particular, who've been doing a great work in exposing the extent of rotten corruption in PetroSA. And in the statement that we've issued, we've pointed out some of the examples, just few, picked up very few examples in terms of what would have been happening in that company for over years. For example, in 2013, the journalist exposed that PetroSA had a CEO, a certain Yekane Tenza, who was acting the CEO, and in the reports it was revealed that there was allegedly 11.4 million that was paid to a certain George Sabelo, who was appointed to advise PetroSA in its Ghana crude oil. And the list of those amounts of money being paid in dodgy projects linked to dodgy individuals who we sure are going to come out very bad in the Zondo Commission goes on. I mean, there was 187 million rands that was lost in the same tune, a 35 million that was lost, and a 19 million rands that was paid to these dodgy individuals. Clearly, this nonsense that there is a depletion of the gas is just a lie. At the center of the reason behind this retrenchment and the total collapse of PetroSA is the same reason as to what is happening to Eskom, what happened to SAA, what happened to SA Express, and what is happening to all of the state-owned enterprises.
So having said that, what's the future of this particular company? Because you mentioned the fact that shades of what happened at Eskom, at SAA, it's there here. And, once again, we hear of a strategic partner that could be a possibility here. What's your take on that, Mr. Vavi?
This is always a strategy.
Yeah.
And some economists puts this thing very nicely when he says, first, defund the state-owned enterprise. Make sure things do not work. Get the people very angry at poor services that it will provide before you offer a solution of privatization strategic partner. This is exactly what is happening to PetroSA. Now we are being told that an equity partner is going to remain and to basically salvage from the skeletons that will be remaining of once a well-beating gas company that was basically a state-owned enterprise, like Eskom, like Dinel, like SAA, like SA Express, like everybody else that have been destroyed by the ANC government over a long period of years. And as we have said last week, ultimately, the people who suffer the most when all of these things happen is the workers and their families. And sadly, as you are pointing out, more than 900 workers are now losing their jobs. There will be only 300 that will remain. And I guess that the 300 will be taken over by the strategic partner, who's going to privatize this institution, and then the rest is going to be the history. The fat cats from everywhere else in the world are going to come and make a fortune from the so-called depleted gas reserves in South Africa.
And that's a state-owned company. I see today you're also coming out against a private firm here, Clover, 1,600 workers retrenched last year. More layoffs are on the cards. I mean, Mr. Vavi, the strike is in its 8th week. You've got a feel for the workers, but I'm wondering whether or not things are really, their efforts are really working out here, because one gets a sense that Clover's not budging at all.
But for now, it is not. It's not budging because, I mean, South Africa in the past 28 years or so of democracy have lost one of its biggest weapons, workers. It was unity, it was solidarity. We've made a call for all workers to rally behind the PetroSA workers, to make it very difficult for the management to retrench another 800 workers as they're aiming to do in the next few weeks. We've made a similar call on the workers and the communities of South Africa to stand firm behind the workers at Clover, who are calling for the total boycott of that company's goods. Because as long as they are not threatened at the profit level, the levels of arrogance by Clover management are going to continue unabated. And that's why we're making a call for solidarity, for boycott of Clover products, and in order for us to force them into the table. The current numbers they're talking about of retrenching and plant closures are totally not acceptable in the context of what we now know, that South Africa have an unemployment rate of more than 12.4 million people, or that two provinces are now having unemployment rate of more than 55%. We can't afford a single more job losses. Everything must be done to avoid any kind of retrenchment in both Clover and PetroSA, and as well as many other companies. We don't want another job loss bloodbath that we saw in 2020, where 1.4 million people were forced to join the long queues of the unemployed in our country. We've warned about the ticking time bomb over and over, pushing more and more workers into this life of hopelessness is going to result into some kind of instability in the country. So we're calling on working class as a whole, please rally behind the workers at Clover, rally behind the workers at PetroSA, and let's force those companies onto the table to talk to us. Our doors are open. We are not willing to just see more and more workers being thrown into this dustbin that is bottomless.
All right, Zwelinzima Vavi from the South African Federation of Trade Unions. He's the General Secretary. Thanks very much indeed for your time.